No football today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I am ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people. What in the world is going on in Miami, guys?
It's not particularly anything to shy away from just because many people are on top of it.
Hot take, hot take.
I think this line is asking you once again to take New Orleans.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Simply put, the only way to bet this is over/under win total. I love Tyronn Lue. I think he's one of the 5 best coaches in the league. But my dear friend George Sorless told us to me a long time ago, you can't win if you don't got the talent. Unfortunately, I don't think the Clippers have the talent to match up.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
Would it make you feel better as a bettor or as a sports fan if they said after the game we were trying to cover the spread?
Oh, God. To say it out loud? Oh, my God, no.
So what,
to say it out loud? Oh, my God. You can't say that out loud. No, you can't even. You can't do that.
Okay, so what is the big deal either way?
Oh, play the game the right way.
The Bostonian versus the book.
Sunday Night Football, not really much of a matchup here. And the Bills looked so good up until this point. And, to me, it's probably like a one-off for them.
The basic thing you have to do against the Ravens, force them to pass and try to use their weapons downfield, get them behind. Because if you can do that, then it takes Derrick Henry a little bit out of the game. But if you get them with momentum coming out of the gate, getting a long touchdown run on the first play.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Hello and welcome to a Thursday Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid and all across the SportsGrid network. That includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time. A Thursday that begins a new week once again in the National Football League. Week number 5 starts tonight. An NFC South Divisional Showdown in Atlanta between the Falcons and the Buccaneers. Divisional supremacy is on the line to kick off week number 5. And they need some good vibes in Atlanta because the Braves are done. In fact, 3 of our 4 opening round wild card sets conclude after only 2 games, a short sweep. There is only one game that will enter the 2 best words when it comes to the wild card round. Game 3. That's the Brewers and the Mets today in Milwaukee. Everything you need to know from the opening round of the MLB postseason. Game 2s that we saw yesterday in 4 different spots. All of that live right here over the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern.
Profitable again yesterday. Look forward to today's game. And I got to tell you, Mets fans out there, you missed a golden opportunity yesterday, which I don't think is going to come around for game number 3. So we'll be certainly previewing that game over the next 3 hours. But so much happened yesterday. The start of the NFL week this weekend. Yes, college football is playing this weekend. No, we don't have Georgia, Alabama, 7:30 once again on Saturday night, but still a card that's a lot of fun to have. And we got 3 hours to get after it today.
Yes, we certainly will. Not the most robust Week 6 college football slate, but some diamonds in the rough, including the least hype national championship rematch you might have ever heard of between Michigan and Washington. But we start, of course, October baseball, game 2s around our wild card sets here in the opening round of the MLB postseason. It's a phenomenon that we have seen now 3 years with the expanded playoffs. The wild card teams who were playing playoff-like baseball for the final weeks, months of the regular season stay hot into October, including those gritty Tides. The Detroit Tigers, who were 8 games below 500 entering August 11th, have now won 33 of their last 46 in their first playoff series since October of 2013. Detroit taking advantage in the 8th, rallying back against Houston to win 5-2. A Ryan Presley wild pitch allows a run to score. The Tigers tie it at 2. Bases chalked for Andy Ibanez. It was the day of the pinch hitter coming through in the clutch. A bases clearing 3 RBI triple that sends Detroit to the American League Division Series for the first time since 2013.
Devastating loss for the Houston Astros, but at the same time, those teams waiting, like the Cleveland Guardians and the New York Yankees, absolutely probably love that decision here. Get that playoff pedigree team out of the way, which they did. And by the way, shout out the Tigers. We talked about this so many times throughout the Major League Baseball season and what happens throughout history. Get hot, play your best baseball down the stretch.
Yep.
Good things will happen, and that happened to the Tigers. I don't even think the most ardent, staunchest Detroit Tigers fan saw this coming here. But Detroit baseball is back. They're going to host home games in the playoffs because why? They went on the road in the wild card series and swept the Houston Astros. That's impressive.
They were a hefty underdog yesterday, and through the opening few frames, Hunter Brown was absolutely shoving against Detroit. But they found a way to win as they had the entirety of August into September and now here in early October. Elsewhere around the American League, we go to Baltimore, where for the second consecutive year in the first playoff series for the O's, they are swept and bounced. The Kansas City Royals in a low-scoring 2 games victorious 2-1. Bobby Witt Jr., the man once again delivering the only RBI of game number 1. Legs out an infield single with 2 outs in the 6th to deliver the game-winning RBI in game number 2. KC victorious in only 2 games on to the American League Division Series, where they will get the number 1 seed in the American League, the New York Yankees. 2-1 the win yesterday, DRS, in Baltimore.
Incredible. You take a look at Kansas City and say, oh, how'd their series go? They only played 2 games, Ben. They scored 3 total runs. Damn, they got swept by the Orioles. Did they? No, they swept the Orioles because the Orioles scored 1 run in 2 ball games. That can't happen. You can't fall asleep. But I like to always chat out the fans, right? When fans are very supportive, I am appreciative of that. The fans even gave up yesterday on Baltimore, barely showing up to that ballpark. And all they kept saying to the telecast was, can't believe it's, this empty in the stadium, which is less people than there were yesterday. They gave up. Maybe it was a foreshadowing. They knew what was going to happen to the Orioles. The Orioles were terrible. They got knocked out. Credit the Kansas City Royals. They're now moving on.
Their first playoff appearance since a World Series championship in 2015, thus their first appearance in the American League Division Series in nearly a decade. Only 11 hits and 1 run in total for the Orioles here in the postseason. We will continue our reactions in just a bit. Now to the National League. It got a little tense last night in Southern California, but as he has done all year long, Robert Suarez comes in for the Padres and shuts the door. He had 34 saves in the regular season, 4th most in the bigs. His first save of the postseason last night as well. San Diego holds on after scoring all 5 runs in the home half of the second, 5-4. The Padres sweep the Braves. They advance to the National League Division Series, where they will see their divisional mates and their Southern California rivals, the LA Dodgers, DRS, for a 3rd time in the last 5 NLDSs.
Fantastic. That is going to be an unbelievable series. But again, until we get there, you look at the Atlanta Braves. It's amazing they even made the playoffs with how many injuries they had. But if you had asked me yesterday, what type of performance are you going to get out of the Braves? I thought you'd get a quality one. They scored 4 runs. Should have been good enough to win. Max Fried was on the mound. 2 innings pitched, 8 hits, 5 earned runs. You can't do that in the biggest spot of the season. You were whitewashed right off the bat at that point. It's a shame it had to go this way for the Braves. They fought hard. They just weren't as talented as the Padres. But Padres, Dodgers, West Coast, whoa, man, it's going to be on fire. It is going to be on fire, Ben.
That is all you could hope for. It was really just the second inning, DRS. Kyle Higashioka, his 2nd home run in 2 games. Manny Machado, a 2 RBI double in the Rook. Jackson Merrill stepping up in the postseason, a 2 RBI triple as well to capitalize on a 5-run second. How about the youngster for Milwaukee, Jackson Chourio? 2 game-tying home runs yesterday, 1 in the home half of the 1st, 1 in the home half of the 8th. And then the pinch hitter, Garrett Mitchell, a 2-run bomb to win it for Milwaukee. The Brew Crew survives and forces a 3rd game, 5-3 the win yesterday against New York.
The New York Mets had the advantage on the mound yesterday and let that slip away. And I also told you, take a look out there for Francisco Lindor, maybe Brandon Nimmo to get RBI shots at big prices. They both got those. I think the Mets are going to rue the day they let that one yesterday slip away, because today they don't have the better pitcher on the mound, and it's a high-leverage situation. Get ready.
The Brewers a -126 home money line favorite today. NFL news now. Davante Adams, we will talk about all the latest reports in terms of the trade rumors and his preference of where he goes. He's dealing with a hamstring issue, set to miss a few games for Las Vegas.
Man, those hamstrings, Ben, coming up and forcing your way to places you shouldn't be forcing your way to.
Oh, you don't say, DRS. The Raiders a 2.5-point underdog in the Mile High City on Sunday. Despite the quarterback issues for Miami, Tyreek Hill reaffirms his commitment to the Dolphins.
Yeah, and also if they trade him, they accelerate a cap of about $40 million in dead cap hits, so maybe they have to cut 3 or 4 players midseason just to get rid of their best player. No, it's not happening.
How bad are things for the Finns? They're a road underdog in Foxborough against the Patriots. DRS, we're not far away from the start of the NBA season. Calf contusions never good. Luka Doncic to be reevaluated in a few weeks after a calf contusion in camp.
Doesn't sound like a contusion. Sounds like he hurt his calf, which means he strained it or pulled it there. Stop with the word salad out here, people. Stop the madness.
Dr. Donnie knows when it comes to calves and Achilles, it's never a good sign. More around October. Major League Baseball postseason action next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
After a very promising start to this season, could it be already done for KC's wide receiver, Rashee Rice, attempting to make a tackle after Patrick Mahomes threw an interception?
We're used to teams saying, we don't know, MRI. Here, Andy Reid's being a little more honest. He's leaving hope alive. But I think they already know, which is really, really too bad.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line on this Thursday, where the wild card round continues in MLB, but in only one spot. Game 3 today in Milwaukee. We'll get to the National League and the third and final game between the Mets and the Brewers, and where San Diego is headed for the NLDS as the Philadelphia Phillies await the action today in the state of Wisconsin. But in the American League, DRS, our 2 opening sets in the wild card round are through after only 2 games. In one, an absolute Shocker. Game number 2 yesterday in Houston. Hunter Brown gets the start for the Astros. On the other side, A.J. Hinch said, hey, DRS, you got some action in the right arm? You might pitch in game number 2 for the Tigers. Ultimately, Detroit pulls off a huge upset. An 8th inning where they scored 4 runs to rally all the way back. First, a Ryan Presley wild pitch that Detroit takes advantage of. And then, with the bases juiced, Andy Ibanez in a pinch hit spot comes through with a 3 RBI bases clearing double to give the Tigers the lead and give the Tigers their first playoff series win since October of 2013. The Gritty Tides, as they are branding themselves, have been gritty since the beginning of August. Now, on to the American League Division Series.
It's pretty incredible the way this played out, because I said coming into the playoffs, Ben, it was like, you know what? You got Tarek Skubal. Nobody wants to play them in a short series because that's automatically 1-0 in your advantage for Detroit. But I wonder how they're going to be able to win games 2 and games 3. You saw coming into the game yesterday, Houston was the biggest favorite on the card, and rightfully so. They did have a pitching mismatch. But you know what's so crazy about this day and age, Ben, in baseball? You're in game 2 of the playoffs, and you already went to a full bullpen game, which saw the Detroit Tigers throw 7 pitchers yesterday in that victory. Back in the day, and I don't even say like 5 years ago, you had 4 different starters start in a 7-game set. Now we're taking a look at 3-game series going, okay, we won the first one. Let's bullpen at game number 2. Usually the bullpen is like the worst case scenario for your team where you're praying that you have a chance to win. And yet Detroit was able to get a 5-2 victory. And the way they got that 5-2 victory on one of the best closers in Major League Baseball over the past 5 years in Josh Hader. An incredible performance for the Tigers over those 2 games. They were better in game number 1, and boy, did they show fight in game number 2. Because let's also remember, it wasn't a 5-2 victory, Ben, where they scored 5 runs over the first 5 innings and held on. This was a game where they were losing until they got that massive double down the line with bases loaded against Josh Hader. Love what I saw of the Tigers. Red hot team. They deserve to win, but boy, baseball has changed so much. Game number 2 where you have a 1-0 lead and you throw a bullpen game and come away with a victory against a quality opponent like the Astros.
And before DRS, Josh Hader was in Houston. Ryan Presley was the shutdown guy for the Stros throughout much of their postseason success that we'll talk about in just a moment. But a wild pitch allows Kerry Carpenter to tie the game up at 2-2 in the 8th, and Andy Ibanez takes advantage. 7 pitchers yesterday for the Tigers. They allow only 5 hits. Jackson Jobe, the young rook, got a little bit roughed up in the 7th as the Astros came back to take a 2-1 advantage entering the 8th inning. But then Detroit held firm into the home half of the 8th and, of course, the bottom of the 9th. It goes without saying, DRS, that this Detroit team has turned its season on its head. A.J. Hinch, a manager that led Houston to a World Series against his former team, has led this young Tiger squad who entered the playoffs on a red-hot run, probably thinking, hey, guys, the fact we're even here a year early, that is significant in itself. But they have not stopped. They sweep Houston in Houston. Again, 55-63 were the Tigers, 8 games below 500 on August 11th. Not June 11th, 8 games below 500. August 11th, they have won 33 of their last 46 games for their first playoff series win, DRS, since 2013 in more than a decade. These Detroit organizations, the Lions and the Tigers, making playoff history and success that we have not seen in a very long time in the Motor City.
The Motown Revolution is coming back here. And again, we didn't expect this out of the Tigers. The Tigers are like, okay, opening day, we have a couple good players, but by May, we're really out of it and just come to the ballpark, try to sit back, relax, and maybe have a little Caesar's pizza. Not the case anymore. This is an unbelievable effort. And I'm excited to see what happens because, again, it's pictured where they have one really good pitcher, and then they're going to try to cobble an effort through, but it worked. So the manager's a genius at that point. That's a big-time win. Advancing with Detroit, going on the road up against Houston because, again, I thought it would be game number 1 to Skubal, and it's like, you know what? Minus 175, minus 180 favorite to Houston. They'll win this game. Then it'll be all hands on deck. Houston knows how to win these games late, and their bullpen, which is the strongest part about their team, they were able to attack the Detroit Tigers. Fantastic stuff all the way through. Houston goes home, and sometimes I feel like the rest of Major League Baseball sends up a cheer when the Astros get knocked out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so, DRS, as you will see from this graphic put together by our producer extraordinaire, Joe Frieso. Look at the top mark and asterisk on the 2017 World Series, spoken as a true Yankees fan. But the Astros had been, either through the cheapened system of the trash can banging or just the fact that they are a good baseball organization, had been to 7 consecutive ALCSs. And DRS, this might be the last run. Justin Verlander on the bench, watching his former team advance to the ALDS. It was Jose Altuve, a sac fly RBI in the home half of the 7th, that gave the Astros the lead and some life, maybe holding on to at least a winner-take-all Game 3. We're not exactly sure what the future holds for the Astros. It was a disastrous first 2 months of the year, but they had the second best mark since the beginning of June, only behind the Amazons, the New York Mets. What is next, DRS, in your estimation for the Astros?
Hey, who knows? When you get that aging team, this is why in the advent of like that luxury tax era, and you just can't make these moves that you used to make, sooner than later, that dynasty is going to fall out, and maybe we're starting to see that. I thought that dynasty fallout was going to happen earlier in the season where they would miss the playoffs altogether, but they rose up, made the playoffs. It's just a disappointing end to the season. You got caught up against a hot team, and they took you down in a short series. It happens.
Yeah. The youngster Hunter Brown, who started yesterday for the Stros, 5 2/3, striking out 9, just 2 hits. But one of the 2 hits, a bad pitch to Parker Meadows that he took over the wall. More around the American League, then to the NL next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
After a very promising start to this season, could it be already done for KC's wide receiver, Rashee Rice, attempting to make a tackle after Patrick Mahomes threw an interception?
We're used to teams saying, we don't know, MRI. Here, Andy Reid's being a little more honest. He's leaving hope alive, but I think they already know, which is really, really too bad.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
In October, you need offense. Somebody tell that to the Orioles. 11 hits in 1 run in 2 games in the American League wildcard set sends the home team Baltimore packing and heading home from Camden Yards in only 2 games. Kansas City, with only 3 runs, advances to the American League Division Series. KC winning game number 2 yesterday in the Charm City 2-1. 2 game-winning RBIs in each of the two in the wild card set for the man that led Kansas City to the postseason, the $281 million man, Bobby Witt Jr. Game-winning RBI in game number 1. Also in the 6th inning, game-winning RBI, legging out an infield single in the 6th inning of game number 2. Kansas City sends the O's packing, DRS. Baltimore bounced in a sweep in each of its first 2 playoff series last year as the number 1 seed, earning the opening round bye in the DS against the Rangers. This year in the wild card round in only 2 games against Kansas City.
You got a great start out of Corbin Burns in game number 1. You didn't score any runs and you lost. That can't happen. Game number 2, like Eflin goes out. And it's a playoff, all hands on deck game number 2. He goes 4 innings pitched and 1 earned runs, which basically matches Seth Lugo. But your offense, once again, only provided you with 1 run. 1 total run through 18 innings of playoff baseball. You're not going to win those series. You're not going to move on. And it's so disappointing because sometimes, Ben, you say, all right, what's going to happen here? The Orioles just didn't have it. Like, Burns was really good on the mound, but the other pitching just suspect. We lost both of those games 7-6 because we knew Baltimore could hit. But the fact of the matter is, once again, Ben, we just look at the box score. And I like to say, give me the crystal ball. Kansas City is going to score 3 runs in the first 2 games. That's a sweep for the Orioles. The Orioles are moving on to the next round, but their offense was so bad, and it's something that we couldn't even foresee. Now, granted, Baltimore didn't play the best baseball in the month of August and September. We understand that. But that 1 through 9 is really, really talented. And it wasn't as if you said, well, what did you want us to do? We faced Chris Sale in game number 1 and Scooble in game number 2. We just couldn't hit. Those 2 pitchers are absolutely filthy dominant. That's not what happened here with the Kansas City Royals. Did the Royals pitch well? Yes, they did. That's a hitter's ballpark in Camden Yards. You can't score 1 run and go home. This is probably as painful as an exit as you're going to get, where we had so many high expectations in the month of May, June, and July. Like, wow, the Orioles not only can win this division, they can be the number 1 overall seed. It's a fun baseball team to watch. Can't wait to get to the playoffs. And it just ended with a thud.
These 2 teams, DRS, 2 of the coldest teams out of the entire 12 making the postseason in either league. The Brew Crew were also a game below 500 in September, but Baltimore needed a final series sweep in the regular season over the Twins, who were just awful in September, to end out September with a winning record. KC struggled, part of it a 7-game skid. They were 3 games below 500 in September, 11-14. But the Royals found just enough in the back end of the bullpen when you had Chris Bubich come in and pitch the way he did, and Lucas Erceg as well, getting a save in each of these 2 games. And Bobby Witt Jr. finds a way. Who was the guy that got the scoring started yesterday in the Charm City, even with a broken thumb? The Pasquatch, our guy, Vinny Pasquantino, delivers the opening offense right away for KC. Zach Eflin, DRS, for the O's, acquired at the trade deadline from Tampa. Made 10 starts, including yesterday in his postseason debut for Baltimore. The O's won 7 of the 10, just not yesterday. And I think, DRS, as we'll talk big picture here as we work in these wild card sets, the Orioles, who are a young and promising team with so much talent, will go home for a 2nd consecutive fall and into winter in question what their ceiling is. Last year was the optimism. Maybe it was a little bit too early, despite being the number 1 overall seed in the AL playoff bracket. But they should have learned from that playoff experience, taking the lumps and figured it out this year. To be sent packing in 2 games at home, scoring just a single run, it's going to sting.
No, it does sting, too. And also, getting a look at those pictures that were taken about the first pitch yesterday with the upper deck half empty, even the fans were like, I'm not showing up today. A little bit, cooler environment. You got the misty rain out here. We can't score any runs. They only scored 1. And by the way, when you're watching the fans in the ballpark throughout that game, it is so painful where you consistently get runners on base and it ends the inning with no runs. Each and every one is like a haymaker to the gut, taking your wind away at that point. And that's what the Orioles did to their fan base. 1 run in 2 games at home. Boy, that's going to last a long time here as we go through the hot stove season.
The O's were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. I promise the National League playoffs next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
After a very promising start to this season, could it be already done for KC's wide receiver, Rashee Rice, attempting to make a tackle after Patrick Mahomes threw an interception?
We're used to teams saying, we don't know, MRI. Here, Andy Reid's being a little more honest. He's leaving hope alive, but I think they already know, which is really, really too bad.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line, now the National League playoffs, where things stand with one of our two National League wildcard sets, only one of the four wildcard series advancing to a winner-take-all game number 3. We start in Southern California, however, where Atlanta even getting to the postseason, DRS, dealing with all of the injury issues they had throughout this season, the entirety of the year, is something to commend. But they came up short now in the postseason. San Diego rolls in 2 games, a sweep in Southern California. Got a little dicey last night. The Padres were up 5-1, scoring all 5 of their runs in the home half of the second. Michael Harris II hits a 2-run bomb in the 8th. But Robert Suarez comes in for San Diego. Maybe a closer you haven't heard of all that much, but 34 saves this season, 4th most in Major League Baseball, shuts the door on Atlanta's series last night in the 9th. San Diego advances to the NLDS, where they will see their Southern California and National League West Division rival, the Los Angeles Dodgers, for the 3rd time in the last 5 seasons in the National League Division Series.
And maybe the best version of the Padres that the Dodgers are going to get, which is going to be fantastic. But you're right, putting this, series to bed, you thought the Padres were better. And also, is there a worse scenario that you can actually be in for the Atlanta Braves coming into this series? You got to play a doubleheader in your own building. You lose game number 1, which means you got to go all in for game number 2. And game number 1 was so back and forth that you had to expend a lot of your bullpen in game number 1 just to get to game number 2. Then you figure Chris Sale's going to pitch. Then he's out for the wild card series. You get on a plane on that Monday. You fly out to the West Coast. You got to play the very next day. It just didn't set up right here. And that just goes to show you how tough this Braves season was, not only with travel to get to the playoffs, just to make the playoffs, and with all the injuries they have, and then take the best pitcher in the National League and sideline him for the wild card series. It just wasn't going to be their time. And also yesterday, you have Max Fried on the mound. Hey, kid, got to give us 6-7 strong. Give us a good effort. 2 innings pitched, 8 hits, 5 earned runs. They were basically wasted early. Now, here's how you know it still is playoff pitching here. Joe Musgrove, 3 2/3 innings pitched, 1 earned run. The minute he started to get in trouble, they pulled him and went to that bullpen, which is a strength for the Padres. It ended up working in their favor. They won 5-4, and now the Dodgers on deck, which is something everybody had planned for. Just think about this, because we're going to go over the recap again for the Mets game. I don't want to buy into conspiracy theories, but I'm going to tell you right now, the American League Division Series, they're both duds for the networks here. You get the Mets, Phillies, you get the Padres, Dodgers. That is ratings electricity that can carry through until the next round.
Come on, man. In Cleveland, the Guardians and the Tigers?
Dud.
A divisional rivalry? Oh, that's going to be electric. By the way, the Guardians winning 7 of 13 against the Tigers this year. The Yanks and the Royals, it will be a hefty favorite for the Yanks to get back to the ALCS and try to win their first pennant since 2009. How about former Yankee Kyle Higashioka stepping up big for San Diego? 2 home runs in each of these 2 games, a home run in each, 3 ribbies in total. Manny Machado, 2 RBI double in the second. The rookie continues to deliver. Jackson Merrill, 2 RBI triple to cap off the 5-run second inning for San Diego yesterday. Michael King, sensational in Game 1. Joe Musgrove, solid in Game 2. Yu Darvish has not thrown yet. He was trending in a positive direction. What a game it's going to be at the Ravine on Saturday night. Jack Flaherty will start for the Dodgers, listed as the probable starter as of right now. We'll see about San Diego. Again, we'll reset everything around MLB in just a moment. But DRS, now we go to Milwaukee. The New York Mets had an early lead, and then Jackson Chourio answered. Nimmo an RBI in the first. Chourio a solo shot for the Brew Crew in the first. Tied it at 1. The New York Mets take the advantage. Entering the 8th inning, they led 3-1. Enter Chourio again, the youngster, a 2-run shot to tie it at 3-all, or a solo shot because it was 3-2, excuse me, but still his second game-tying home run of the game. And Garrett Mitchell in the home half of the 8th, and a pinch hit opportunity, 2-run home run. Milwaukee forces a Game 3 today in Wisconsin with the 5-3 victory.
Now, Selfish DRS yesterday did not watch this whole game. Selfish DRS went to bed at 3-1 after he cashed his own ticket and said, I got a long day on Thursday, so I had to get caught up this morning because as I went to bed, Ben, 3-1, I like the Mets are going to move on from this series. Just looks like, you know what, not the Brewers season. It's just not going to happen. The Mets absolutely red hot. Credit them for coming back and forcing a game number 3. Now, we're going to preview this game number 3 today a little bit later in the show, but I already told you a little foreshadowing here. Yesterday was the day to get a victory for the New York Mets because coming into the game overall, the one target I had, the worst pitcher on the card yesterday in the wild card round, it was actually Frankie Montas. 3 2/3 innings pitched, 3 runs he gives up, 1 of those earned. That should have been enough to give the knockout punch. Yesterday was the day the Mets were supposed to easily beat the Milwaukee Brewers and let that game slip away because today they don't have the better pitcher on the mound. Now, are we throwing the Mets season away because I don't think they have the better pitcher? No. We've seen good pitchers crumble in big spots a lot throughout playoffs. Anybody ever hear of Clayton Kershaw for the first couple years of his career in the playoffs? Didn't work out in his favor. I can't wait for this game to play out, but also credit the Brewers for coming back down 3-1, already down in the series, and picking up that victory in game number 2.
Jackson Chourio, DRS. How about this for the stat for the youngster for Milwaukee? Becomes the first player in a playoff game with 2 game-tying home runs in a single postseason game since the Babe himself. Babe Ruth back in Game 4 of the 1928 World Series. History for Chourio. He extends into a winner-take-all game number 3. Garrett Mitchell, of course, the game-winning home run as well. So today in Game 3 in Milwaukee, Tobias Myers makes the start for the Brew Crew. Jose Quintana on the other side for New York. Milwaukee is a -130 live money line favorite on the FanDuel Sportsbook. And DRS, it's only a best of 3, of course, in the wild card round. This is the only set of the 4 we will see a Game 3 to decide a berth into the National League Division Series. So you would expect the odds to fluctuate greatly entering Game 2 with the upset in the opener in Wisconsin. The New York Mets were a -320 favorite to win the series. Today, they're the underdog. How greatly the odds can change, something to pay attention to. Into the DSs, we're sure it's not a best of 3, but it's only a best of 5.
Yes, and also keep in mind this as well. The teams that are waiting for their opponents, they're going to play somebody. They know it, but you always like them to play the 3 games. They have to use more pitchers, use more of their effort, use more of their enthusiasm before they get to that next city. The Phillies have the advantage now because now you have the Brewers and you have the Mets playing a game. The Phillies are going to wait to see who they play, but they had to go that extra leverage day where the other teams didn't. It's to your advantage if you advance in a series to advance as fast as you possibly can. The Mets weren't able to do that. It's going to be a fun game to watch you play out because even though, like, we saw it a lot in game 2, it's like, hey, all hands on deck, we understand it. But game number 3, both teams, pitcher gets in trouble. First inning, they might pull him back. Second inning, they might pull him. You might see 6 to 7 pitchers on both sides tonight getting after it. I love to see this. And from a fan perspective, as you brought up, it's a shame because unless you were betting and you say, you know, I'm going to root on my bets, of course, I don't care if all these games end early. We wanted to see maybe 2, 3, or even 4 of these games go to game number 3. It would have been fun. So now it's just one primetime game where it would have been nice to have some afternoon baseball game 3s here. Didn't happen. Oh, well, we get the Mets Brewers tonight, and we'll be watching.
So the Dodgers and the Padres set for a third meeting in the NLDS in the last half decade. LA plus 165 to win the pennant. You see San Diego at 3-1. Philadelphia plus 190 awaiting the winner of today's game in Milwaukee. LA just a minus 138 favorite to win the National League Division Series. That's why you see the odds tight. The Yankees haven't played a game and yet feel very favorable about their path to a World Series and an American League pennant. So DRS just quickly here to show you these odds for the first time all season since Shohei Ohtani was acquired way back in the winter. The Dodgers are not the World Series favorites because of their division series matchup against San Diego and the Yankees' smooth path, it would appear. Around the NFL next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
After a very promising start to this season, could it be already done for KC's wide receiver, Rashee Rice, attempting to make a tackle after Patrick Mahomes threw an interception?
We're used to teams saying, we don't know, MRI. Here, Andy Reid's being a little more honest. He's leaving hope alive, but I think they already know, which is really, really too bad.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid. It is a Thursday. Yes, October baseball rolls on with a winner-take-all Game 3 between the Brewers and the Mets tonight in Milwaukee. But a Thursday also means the start of a new week around the National Football League. Week 5 kicks off in Atlanta between the Falcons and the Buccaneers in an NFC South divisional showdown. Of course, we will preview TNF short week Thursday night football here in just a little bit. But one of the great things, DRS, about the way the NFL calendar works each and every week, when you get to Tuesday and Wednesday, speculation builds up. It's injury reports, it's practice reports, maybe it's trade rumors. That's the case now with Davante Adams, saying he prefers to be dealt from Las Vegas. Did let it be leaked yesterday what his preferred destinations are. It should be no surprise. New York, a reunion with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, or back with his best bud from his Fresno State days and early on in Las Vegas, Derek Carr in New Orleans. Here is the rumored and reported interest in Davante Adams. Just because he is listed as two preferred destinations does not mean that's all the Raiders are listening to at this moment. The Steelers were in the running for Brandon Ayuk. They're interested. The Cowboys, not so much. They also don't really have the money to pay Davante Adams' salary. Although it made a lot of sense for the Chiefs to be a reportedly interest team, they are not involved, not expected to be there. They're a divisional foe of Las Vegas. The Commanders, unknown, I guess, is what we're listing it as. DRS, what do you make of the speculation around Davante Adams?
Yeah, let's start here first with the Raiders. Coming into the season, we signed Minshew and AOC is the other quarterback. They're going to battle it out in training camp. Let's see what happens here. And then you say you have Davante Adams at wide receiver. And we all thought that the Raiders would absolutely flat out stink this season. They're 2-2, and you know what? At the end of the season, they're going to flat out stink. But let's go back to what they had. They had their own form of the triplets. Jacobs in the backfield, Davante Adams at wide receiver with his best friend at quarterback, Derek Carr. I guarantee you, Ben, coming into this season, if that was still their trio, you'd be saying this. You know what? Chance the Raiders can make the playoffs here. Like what I'm saying, couple years under already, building that process. This is the way you handle it. Now it looks like all three are going to be gone, and they're going to be terrible. Now, as we say, where does he want to go? Of course, wide receivers, quarterbacks, cornerbacks, whatever it might be, they would love to pick where they go. But let's understand this. Davante Adams makes a lot of money on his contract right now. You know what happens where Davante goes? Yeah, I'm going to pick my team. I'm going to go to the Jets. And, Jets, by the way, when you trade me, you see how the other wide receivers are getting paid. I don't have any more guaranteed money left on my contract. Yes, it's like $35 million. Why don't you say you guarantee that and bump my number up even more than that? Who's going to want to pay for that? Oh, Davante Adams is 26 years old in his prime. No, he's in his 30s here, still in his prime, but how many more years does he have being effective, dominant, number one wide receiver? That's the first thing. And also, let's start with the New York Jets, where he actually wants to go to. It doesn't make any sense. Garrett Wilson was drafted to be your long-term number one option, and he's a quality wide receiver. So are we saying that Aaron Rodgers already put out, hey, look, I don't think Garrett can play football here. Let's bring in Mike Williams. I need another wide receiver on the opposite side. Might as well cut him loose too. You already brought in Alan Lazard and everybody else. It doesn't make sense. They're not one player away, the New York Jets. You know where they're one player away? Get some help on the offensive line. If the Jets instead of going, you know what, Davante, we're not going to spend money or trade for you. I'm going to go trade for two legitimate offensive linemen so my quarterback doesn't get beaten to a pulp on Sunday afternoons. How about that? So just starting with the Jets, it makes no sense to get Davante Adams on the Jets. Why would you do that?
But who wears the pants for Gang Green? Is it Robert Saleh, who backed off his cadence concern questions for the offense once Aaron Rodgers voiced his displeasure of his head coach's reaction to the disappointing and dreadful loss as more than a touchdown home favorite against Denver? No. Is it Woody Johnson, who is circulating everything and having to pay the paychecks of what they decide to do? No. I think it's Aaron Rodgers. So if Aaron Rodgers says, I'm not playing unless I get Davante Adams, they are going to try to get Davante Adams. And Aaron Rodgers, of course, is not going to question his availability for games. But DRS, if he is in there in the front office saying, with Joe Douglas, I want Davante, trade for Davante, they will at least consider it. Does New Orleans make some sense? Yes, just because of the reunion of Derek Carr. But DRS, when you actually think of teams that need offensive pieces, Davante Adams is always an elevation. Pittsburgh, though, makes a ton of sense. Kansas City would make sense, again, if it were not a divisional foe. And Davante Adams still has it. 3 games this year, 18 total grabs, more than 200 yards and a touchdown, and that's with Gardner Minshew. In the Raiders' comeback in Baltimore week 2, it was these 2 guys, Minshew and Davante, that really spurred that Raiders offense on to lead the comeback. And to your point, DRS, first-year head coach Antonio Pierce, Vegas is 2-2, both straight up. And against the spread, the win total is 6.5. It's where it was before the season. It's where it remains with the juice on the over at -154. It's not like the Raiders have been so vastly disappointing that we have got to this point. I think it's just Davante Adams saying, hey, I could hope for better. This is not what I had agreed to when I came to Sin City. Ultimately, this is going to take some time. Davante Adams has a hamstring injury as the trade speculation has built up. The Raiders' bye is the opening weekend of November. When do you believe Davante Adams might actually be dealt?
But 2 things here. Let's get to Davante Adams, that hamstring injury. This sounds a lot more like we know he doesn't want to be here, wants to be traded ASAP. We got a team to still prepare for this weekend. And if he's not all in, we don't want him here. We don't want him to get injured here while we're trying to trade him. I don't know about this hamstring injury. Number 2, New Orleans here to be able to get him. Like, I don't know what, like, you know, funny money we play in here at this point. They're $90 million over the cap for next year. And you're going to get Davante Adams going to want a pay raise based on what he already makes. As Johnny Sack once said here, they're going to have to get more creative than Spielberg on this one to try to get Davante Adams in town. So I don't think he's going there. The team that makes the most sense to me right now, and I'll keep it short, the Buffalo Bills. You put him as a number 1 with Josh Allen. Now we're cooking with grease, baby. Now we can get after it. And Buffalo can rise as the best team in the AFC. That's where Davante wants to go. Go to Buffalo. Get the skis out. Get the snowshoes out, Davante. Come on now.
A lot of draft capital in Western New York or around the NFL next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
After a very promising start to this season, could it be already done for KC's wide receiver, Rashee Rice, attempting to make a tackle after Patrick Mahomes threw an interception?
We're used to teams saying, we don't know, MRI. Here, Andy Reid's being a little more honest. He's leaving hope alive, but I think they already know, which is really, really too bad.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
What is the season outlook for the New England Patriots in year number 1 of a new era with rookie head coach Gerard Mayo? One of the guys you could rely on for this Pats team to provide that experience, to bring along this young roster, to try to even be competitive in football games. Their center, their captain, David Andrews. Bad news yesterday in Foxborough. He is expected to have surgery to repair a significant shoulder injury and will likely be placed on season-ending IR. David Andrews, DRS, now out for the remainder of this season. So what does it mean for a Patriots team that won its opening game of the year in shocking upset fashion in Cincy, that nobody expected, that closed as only a field goal underdog in its home opener week number 2 and forced overtime against Seattle, but since then, in weeks 3 and 4, has looked to be the team that entered the season with the worst win total around the National Football League of only 4.5. They got beat by the Jets on a short week Thursday night football game by 3 touchdowns. They got hammered by 3 scores last week in Santa Clara against the San Francisco 49ers. As the year's first double-digit dog, they did not come close to covering that spread. So what is next, DRS, for the Pats this season?
Yeah, probably just forfeit at this point. I mean, this is the least talented roster in the NFL that just got even more talent taken away from the roster. Having said that, watch out this week at Miami Dolphins because you're not talented either at the most important position. But from a New England, isn't this what we thought? Like, they show up week number 1, like, oh, wow, look at this. Gerard Mayo's got the boys going in the right direction. They were hard-nosed in that game. They won it and pulled away. Game number 2, hey, they might be a little bit more competitive. Then the next 2 weeks, Ben, the bottom absolutely fell out on the New England Patriots, where they're terrible in offense, just like we thought they would be. They'll be terrible on offense the rest of this season, which brings up some other questions. But losing Andrews, when you know coming into a game, you have to control the football. You have to be dominant on the ground game. To lose that guy, that's a devastating loss to the Patriots.
Yeah, it really stinks. And moving the football on the ground has been an issue for New England the last few weekends. The guy they paid this offseason offensively was Ramondre Stevenson. And yet he has fumbled in each of the opening 4 games for the Patriots this season. So Gerard Mayo was speaking to reporters before practice yesterday and said it is definitely under consideration that Antonio Gibson, who has been a bright spot for New England, starts over Stevenson because of those ball security concerns. Does it matter? Ramondre Stevenson was good. We saw the game plan for New England the opening 2 weeks. Despite Stevenson coughing up the football, if they could play from in front and run it and have Jacoby Brissett throw it maybe 12 times a game, they would stay in games. The clock would run. They would grind it out. They would keep it more competitive. But since they started 0-1 against the spread, they have now not covered in 2 consecutive games. Again, New England is going to be an underdog in all 17 regular season games this year, we thought, except for Sunday at home inside Gillette Stadium, where they are currently a slight 1.5-point favorite against the Dolphins, which I think says more about Miami and Mike McDaniel than it does about New England.
It does. And also, Ramondre Stevenson is their best overall weapon. They better get it figured out quickly, because the one thing you can't blame a coach for is turnovers. When a quarterback can be as good as he wants to, but he's throwing 3 interceptions a game and getting strip sack fumbled, I don't care how good he is, he can't be your quarterback. Same thing with the running back. Boy, that is demoralizing, where you're going on a drive, you drop the football on the ground, or better yet, against San Francisco, drop the football on the ground after like at the kickoff, which means the other team is already in the red zone at that point. I hope he gets it figured out, because putting him on the bench doesn't solve very many solutions for the New England Patriots trying to move the football.
So then, Donnie, the next question would be, as we look at the reserves and we look at the bench, when might, if we do ever this season, see Drake May start football games? The Patriots at home as a slight favorite on Sunday against the Dolphins. But after that, it's a home game against Houston, a London game against Jacksonville, a home game against the Jets to end out October, and then to start November, 2 consecutive road trips to Tennessee, to Chicago. If you're wondering when the bye week is for New England, it's not until the second Sunday of December to try to groove in the young rookie quarterback. When do we see Drake May, if at all, DRS?
You shouldn't see him at all. They're so bad, only bad tendencies will be able to build. And also, Drake May probably wishes he was back in college. He'd be redshirting and hitting the NIL transfer portal immediately at this point on this horrible, barren franchise right now called the New England Patriots. But I didn't like a lot what I saw even when he came in. He's a long way from playing, and they should not rush this kid. Their best chance, rebuild this team in the offseason, let him go with a full offseason, see what he can do. This is a lost cause this year with Drake May.
You saw the win total, just 5.5. Hour number 2 is up next.